Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode. It's season 2 and episode 30 of Gumbo Live. Gumbo Live is the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Well, Jamey, that's because Jamey Stegmaier does Facebook Live broadcasting, but not necessarily a talk show, because you'd probably be #1. But our special guest tonight is Jamey Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. Gumbo Live is a proud member of Punchboard Media. Punchboard Media is, check out some of the other fine members like Cloak and Meeple. Brian does a great job with his video previews and reviews of all the latest games. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Tonight, hit us up on social media, on Twitter at Board Game Gumbo, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Board Game Gumbo. We'll be looking for your questions on the chat. But enough chit chat. Let's get to our special guest, Jamey Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. It's awesome to have you in here at Gumbo Live. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, Jamey, you've heard of the elevator. Say that again?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you've heard the elevator pitch. You've probably been pitched many, many times. But here's your chance. Give us the elevator pitch of who Jamey Stegmaier is and what Stonemaier Games all about.
Yeah, I run a small board game company in St. Louis, Missouri called Stonemaier Games, like you said. I've designed a few of our games, Viticulture, Euphoria, your expansions to them. I already said Euphoria, what am I missing? Charterstone and Scythe. And we publish a game called Between Two Cities from some other designers. And yeah, that's what I do.
I've got a picture for some of the viewers out there of a couple of your games. I also have a couple of them up here. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but it is awesome. It's awesome to have you here. Look, this is a live show, Jamey, so we may get some questions. In fact, I see already Jeremy Davis, the Game Geek Ninja, checking in. He says, hey, it's always worth the wait to hear from Jamey Stegmaier. Not bad.
Great.
So we'll be seeing some other people in here. Hey, I always like to ask this question. What's the best game, Jamey, you've played since Gen Con? What should we be looking out there for?
Yeah, that was tough to think of because Gen Con was a while ago. But I've played a lot of great games since then. I picked 3 that I thought I might mention. Let's see if you played any of these. Have you played Untitled Kingdom? Just at the Ganges.
Yeah, Jamey, you cut out for a second. I did hear Rajas of the Ganges, right?
Right. That. Sorry, I cut out. Bunny Kingdom and Meeple Circus.
Yeah, I know all 3 games. I know one's Richard Garfield, the Bunny Kingdom. I haven't played any of the 3. Meeple Circus actually looks the most different out of those 3. It almost seems like it doesn't fit in the other 2 categories.
Yeah, I mean, I love heavy Euro games, but I also like these lighter games that still have interesting decisions too. Kind of, that's probably the heaviest. But Bunny Kingdom and Meeple Circus are a little lighter.
All right, I'm hearing from some people that say Bunny Kingdom, fantastic game, but a little bit on the fiddly side. What do you think?
The scoring is a little weird. That might be what they're referring to, because there's a scoring multiplier that you need to use. I could see that. I usually attribute fiddly with setup and where every time you have to do something, you have to remember 3 other triggers. And Bunny Kingdom doesn't really have that. So I wouldn't quite call it fiddly. There's some randomness to it.
No, I think you're right. I think it was the scoring. I think it was the in-game scoring. You almost needed a calculator to break out.
Yes. Yeah. The game has a multiplication chart that comes with the game to help you do that.
Well, multiplication chart, rabbits. I mean, it kind of makes sense there. So Meeple Circus is a game I was a little worried about because I played Coaster Park and I thought, look, when I even heard about Coaster Park, I said to myself, oh my God, this is a game I got to try. And then the implementation, was a little disappointing because it was just a little tougher than we thought to get the marbles. Meeple Circus is, it seems to be a little bit of a dexterity element, with trying to get your meeples in order. Is there the same problems that we've seen with Coaster Park that transfers into a game like Meeple Circus?
I haven't played Coaster Park, so I can't exactly speak to that. But I found with Meeple Circus, I thought it was going to be mostly a dexterity game with some Euro elements. And it turned out that it was more of a Euro game trying to draft the right combination of meeples. And then there is a dexterity element. But that really only comes in where it's time. Well, in the last round, everyone's watching you do it. It's like a performance. And that's when you really have to be dexterous and get those meeples in the right place. I'll have plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, sounds like all three of those games are right up my alley. So I'm looking forward to playing all those. It sounds like some great games that you got to play since Gen Con. My buddy Alex Goldsmith moved out to St. Louis, and he says you guys have a great game group going.
That's right. Yeah, Alex joined our game group. Fortunately, he's been a great addition to the game group over the last few months. This is where I don't know if you can see behind it. This is my my little gaming room and office where we play games.
Oh, that's where y'all actually do the games. Yeah. So you never know. He may check in with us. Jeremy Davis said, yeah, a multiplier with bunnies, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Jamey, you've got a big presence at Gen Con, although not in the main part of Gen Con. I know you've been running events the last couple of years in a side hotel. So it made me curious as to why you would do it. You blog very frequently, and so we kind of almost feel like we know you as your company has grown, because you share so much. Mm-hmm. But here's my question, though. As a board game player, you have game nights, and as a board game publisher, what's your favorite convention from both of those aspects? And if you said Gen Con, I would, based on what you've written, I'd almost think, okay, that doesn't match up.
Yeah, you are correct there based on what you've seen. I go to Gen Con as a publisher. It's a great place to meet my international partners, to meet with distributors and retailers, and have games pitched to us. So that's really great to see games firsthand. But it feels like work. I come home exhausted from Gen Con. Every night I'm exhausted. So my favorite convention, I don't attend many conventions, but the one that I really, really love is called Geekway to the West. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I'm got a shot at going to it this year. I'm trying to make it out there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It's a wonderful convention. It's a smaller convention where you just play games with friends and strangers for 4 days. And even as an introvert, I have a great time because everyone's so welcoming and nice, and they'll invite you over to their table, or they'll show up at your table and invite themselves into a game. It's my favorite convention, and I've heard there are others like it. Like I've heard that BGG Con is like it, Dice Tower Con is like it, but Geekway is right in my backyard. It's in St. Louis here. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, Dice Tower Con is exactly what you said. Actually, it's longer than that. It's officially 5 days, but we got there on Sunday and started playing from Sunday all the way until that following Sunday, because people are at the hotels. I mean, it's Disney, so people are at the hotels, right. And we just showed up in the lobby and had stacks of games and just started playing them. And I kept thinking, I love Gen Con, and we have to go to Gen Con for certain reasons. But boy, I played more games in the 2 days, so the Sunday and Monday before the convention started at Dice Tower Con, than I have played the entire 2 years I've been at Gen Con.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Gen Con isn't a place to play games, really. Yeah.
So you said you're an introvert, and you've talked about that many times. What is it like going on live shows like this, going on podcasts, meeting people as a publisher, meeting people at your game nights? How has that transition been for you?
Those are all things that I enjoy, that I'm comfortable with. I'm sure there are different types of introverts. The thing that I am not good at is like going to people, starting conversations with people. Something like this, where to have a conversation, I'm very comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with game nights where we're coming together with play games. It's the Geekway. Like I was worried that I would show up and I would just walk around awkwardly for 4 days. But like immediately, the first day that I showed up a few years ago, someone invited me into a game, and after that, it's fine. I'm fine and comfortable with it. So can you relate? Are you an introvert or an extrovert, BJ?
I used to think I was an introvert, but I've been told by my wife a million times I'm not. So, I don't mind walking in. I walked into a game group. I didn't know a single person when I joined it, and now I help run the game nights. I run the game nights at a game store. I go to these conventions and I end up meeting 20 people and playing games with them for 5 days. So I'm starting to figure it out. No, I'm not an introvert at all. Yeah. Apparently, I like people and I like hanging out with people. In fact, you know why I started Gumbo Live? At Dice Tower Con, we were. This is not to butter you up. At Dice Tower Con, I taught Viticulture probably 4 times, and on the Tuesday before the games, before the Dice Tower Con started, I had taught it again. And it was late in the evening, and Jack, my son, was still playing, I think it was Dice Forge. and it's after 10 o'clock. And he's like, "Oh, Dad, I still want to finish this game." So the guys that I was playing with, just three strangers that I met, and we were hanging out all day, and we had played 3 back-to-back Euros, so I'm brain dead. We just started talking, and for 2 hours while they played a game, we just chatted about board games, about favorite designers, about mechanics, about a lot of the stuff that you talk about on your blogs and your videos. And we did that for 2 hours, and I kept saying, I don't know which one I like better, playing games or talking about games.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's interesting. That's that you found that. I would probably be exhausted after that conversation. As much as I love talking about games, I'd end up tired after that.
And Jeremy is another guy like that. Jeremy and the Game Geek Ninja, we actually used to Twitter back and forth, and then we finally met because we're both from the South, so we had something in common. And we finally met at Gen Con, and it's exactly he's posting here. It's why I do this, and he's a game ambassador, and he is true. We both are either game ambassadors or game evangelizers. I mean, we just like bringing people to the hobby. So I think that's what this show is all about. Hey, I did a couple of show notes and a couple of questions to throw at you. You do so many interviews. I don't like to retread a lot of the ground. And the people watching this show, they probably know who you are, Jamey. So that's the good thing. But I am curious about a couple of things. One of the things that I love about your games is that you actually seem to build a world in each different game. So you have Charterstone, you have Viticulture, and then you signed this game by another person between 2 cities. And then you've talked about on your website that you're signing other games that are in development. So Jamey Stegmaier, the world builder, because all of your games are not just a mechanic. They all seem to have this, the theme seems to be really important and the world building seems to be important. How is Jamey Stegmaier, the designer, how are you okay with watching other people build the world and you're just publishing it? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the reasons that I started to be drawn to games that have I read a lot of fiction, and one of my favorite things is when I walk into a new world for a while. And so I think it's actually been pretty exciting to see other designers be involved with the creation of new worlds for the games that we're publishing. Like it doesn't feel like they're stepping on my toes. It's an opportunity for me to experience a new world. As a developer, influence on
that makes sense. I can kind of see that now. You're actually almost reading a novel whenever you're looking at what these other board game designers. Can you talk a little bit? Do we have a little scoop about anything that's coming up? This is the place for scoops. We're live. No one's watching.
We are. Yeah, that's right.
We're not taping this, and we're not going to broadcast it millions of times over the next couple of weeks. I may not be telling the truth there.
So I can say a few things. Really, I can say anything I want, but I've already decided what I can.
Yeah, let's turn off the mics here and just talk me and you. Okay.
Yeah. So we have partially of expansions. So there's some things that are already public. Is that we have a Euphoria expansion that we're working on.
Sure.
That should come out for this year.
I've got Euphoria on the screen right now.
Euphoria, yeah, that's right. Viticulture, you have another small expansion that'll come out in the late spring.
For which game?
For Viticulture.
Okay.
And then Scythe, the big announcement we had a month ago was that the final expansion for Scythe, which is a pretty big expansion, it's a campaign and a modular expansion called The Rise of Fenris. That there's no scoop there. Obviously, I've already talked about that. So Let me give you a scoop. What can I say?
Sure.
So so the top part of giving this scoop is that right now I'm kind of like debating whether or not I can release 2 games in the late fall around Essen time. And so I'm a little hesitant to really give a scoop because I don't know which of those I'll release. But I guess I'll say that the one that I'm pretty confident that will come out in the fall, if we only do one of the two, is a castles themed game.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to say much more than that. That's more than I've said about it at all. This game has been very top secret. So that is a Mind Castles themed game that is complete. We are finished with the game in terms of play testing. We just need to actually finish the art and get it typeset and out to the printer.
Castles themed game, and I guess there's going to be a clue on the website with your little secret project names, maybe.
There is, yeah. This is one of the code names on my monthly newsletter. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. We don't always get the scoop here. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, we can't say," and then sometimes we get a little dribble of information. Get the people excited out there. And hey, you have been very successful in creating the brand, marketing, and sharing that journey with so many people. I saw something funny today. Someone said, and it's not the first time I've seen this, but someone said something like on their Kickstarter news. I think it's the guy from Pigment said, we should be getting your projects in hand because we're following the Stonemaier method of shipping.
Oh,
and cool. I was like, wow, he's got a method now. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, BJ.
No, I was just going to say you've actually got a name, a method, a scientific method for shipping out products worldwide is forever going to be known as the Stonemaier method.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, we've been doing it so long, and so many companies have been doing it for so long. But before, and I can't take full credit for this because I doubt I was really the first company to do it. But when we needed to ship Viticulture in 2013, I'm not aware of another company that had shipped it that way before. I think most companies back then were shipping it by hand, or maybe they were hiring a single fulfillment center to ship it worldwide. But no one, at least, writing about the idea of shipping it to fulfillment centers worldwide and having them ship within their regions. So, like every time on a project where you say or Australia friendly or Canada friendly, those were originated from my website for you. So it's been awesome for me to see that a little method that I experimented with and failed with a number of times, but mostly got it right, has had a positive impact.
Boy, you were brutally honest during that Scythe campaign as you were struggling with maybe shippers letting you down during that campaign. How much is there, do you struggle with letting people know about the kind of what do I want to say, behind the scenes, opening that door, showing a little bit of behind the scenes magic. And then when it's not always magic, sometimes there's a little bit of a dark side. Do you hesitate at all?
In terms of transparency,
yes.
I rarely hesitate. In that case, it was a little unique, though, because I was speaking poorly about someone else, which I really try to do rarely. But in that case, it was me being really disappointed in a few fulfillment centers that let me down and let a lot of backers down. And I did not want other creators to suffer that same fate. So I felt that it was my responsibility to warn people about those companies.
But now you're a couple of years past that. Scythe's blown up. It's everywhere. And you're talking about bringing Scythe to a close. When other companies would say, wow, how many versions of Catan are there out there now?
Right.
Other companies say, wow, you have this big evergreen title is the word Stephen Bonacore always uses. And you've got this title, Scythe, that could really be evergreen, especially if you keep plugging in the expansions. Tell me about that decision, the decision to close it out, and not the decision to make it a legacy game, because, boy, the Scythe world just seemed like it was ripe for a legacy game.
Yeah, I thought about doing a legacy version of it, but then I got wrapped up in Charterstone, and I realized how hard it is to design a legacy game. So I went a different route. I kind of fell in love with the but the main ones is that I didn't want to. I mean, the expression I use on my website is I didn't want to milk customers for more of their money. People have spent hundreds of dollars on Scythe,
right?
Scythe accessories, Scythe expansions, all that stuff. And it just seemed like I wanted to respect their investment by giving them a sense of closure. And I think the comparison would be, like I'll ask you, like, can you think of a TV show that that ended at a great time and that you were happy the way it ended, versus maybe a TV show that went on a little bit too long, and even though you liked it, you were like, God, like I feel like I have to keep watching this because they're still making it, but I don't really want to anymore.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Cheers is one of my favorite shows. At the time it ended, it needed to end. If it kept going,
right.
I just don't think it would be the show, So yeah. Leave them wanting more is, what I've heard before.
Right. Yeah. Leave them wanting more. Yeah. I'm going to sit down here. I just moved over here.
Hey, Jamey, it's a live show, and we have people watching that have questions for you. And one of those guys is Dr. Steve Finn, a board game designer who's been on the program before. Steve has a question for you. Yeah. I don't know if you know Steve or if you've met him before. I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Steve Finn's games, but he says, hey, BJ and Jamey, Steve Finn here. If you're looking for a question to ask, here's a question. When you're doing Kickstarters, how important was it to go to conventions and have a presence, a booth, etc., there while you're doing that Kickstarter? I wonder how important it is for me to go to conventions as a way to get more Kickstarter backers. Steve has a model where, he relies on his people to support. He's got a long list of people that continually back his games over and over. But, he told me when we visited, he doesn't do a lot of conventions.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, first I want to hold up my copy of Cosmic Run that
There it is.
Yeah. I backed this a while ago. Haven't actually gotten to play it yet, but I have opened it up and looked at it. It's a beautiful game.
Is that the new edition?
This is the Kickstarter version. I don't know. I don't know which version it is. But I mean, my answer as Stonemaier Games is probably similar to Steve's in that I have not pursued the convention strategy very much. It's very expensive. It's very time consuming, and I found that I can reach more people through things like this, through social media, through my blog, through YouTube, and still have what is and what feels like a personal connection. So I think for some companies, the conventions really work. Like Greater Than Games here in St. Louis, they have a heavy convention strategy, and they're very good at it, and they've made a lot of lifelong customers by pursuing that strategy. But so I think maybe the takeaway for me is that I love relationship-driven strategies, but I think there are different ways of accomplishing that. One is conventions, another is social media, and there are probably others too.
I like it. All right. One of the reasons I wanted to ask you on, you had said something a while back, and I don't know if it was what you said that just triggered this, but it started getting me thinking about how you're always looking ahead at what's coming. And I think what it was the shift away from crowdfunding into this new model that you're doing. And it got me thinking, is there a better person to ask? Because this is January and February. This is all about prediction times.
Right.
And I know this is just for fun, but what do you think board gaming is going to look like? What's board gaming 2.0? Everybody says we're in the golden age. And I'm talking about both from a publishing standpoint, maybe even a funding standpoint, and also just if we have time and you want to talk about it, for for just as gamers, what is board gaming 2.0 going to look like?
I think I'll throw out a couple quick answers, and if there's one that hits home with you, we can talk about it in more detail.
Sure.
So a few of the things I wrote down when I was thinking about this are, I think we'll see a lot of smaller print runs of games that maybe lead to bigger print runs or maybe lead to nothing. I think we'll see more companies either go all in for direct orders or all in for the distribution method, but less and less of a hybrid of the two, because I think they often conflict with each other. My cat Walter is making an appearance here.
Hey, Walter.
I think we'll, and in terms of from the gamer perspective, I think we'll see, it's not really from the gamer perspective, but in terms of the gaming experience perspective, I think we'll continue to see some really cool components that we haven't even thought of today, just because in today's world of manufacturing, you can make pretty much anything. So I think we're going to see some really cool stuff in coming years.
Do you see it the way I do it every single year? It seems like we are getting spoiled by bigger and bigger and bigger productions.
Well, In a way, yeah, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why we might see more companies shift to being the companies that make those games. They might be more and more like Kickstarter only or direct order only, because it's these games are coming out at like $100, $120, $150, and that's but those games could be like Mechs vs. Minions is a $75 game, and they did that by just avoiding distribution altogether. So I think we might see companies try that.
I still call shenanigans on that $5 shipping price.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. There's no way that. Yeah, that's probably $20 shipping. They built it in. They're not making a lot of money off that game, but I think they could have reasonably charged $99, and that would have still felt like a great deal. But that would still be bypassing the distribution method. At distribution, that would be maybe $175 game.
I have Mex right over here, and I'm still convinced my son and all of his friends subsidize that shipping with all the League of Legends games they play.
Oh yeah,
there's no way you can ship that box. Even 20,000 units. I don't care if it's 15 or 20,000 units. That's not a $5 shipping box. There's just no way.
Oh no, yeah, I'm looking at it on my shelf right now. That's easily $20 shipping at best.
So how far did you get into Mex vs. Mini? Did you complete it?
You know, my group's been pretty good at completing campaigns for like campaigns that are maybe 10 or 12 games, and that's one of them. Yeah, we completed it.
Yeah, we got halfway through, and we have not finished. We got to finish that one, but that's a different group. The group that's doing this one, we're about halfway through. I think we'll be starting game 6, and we should finish that one because we're enjoying it. If you ask me, one of the best games I've played since Gen Con, Charterstone was one of them. So I'm a believer. I've really enjoyed Charterstone. You've done a good job with it. It's right at my wheelhouse. It's without spoiling anything. I mean, everybody knows some of the mechanics on it, but the mechanics in the game are just right at my wheelhouse. So
that's great.
Good job with that one. So that's 2.0 for, we talked about a little funding. I mean, we talked about publishing. We talked about funding. Do you see continually adding new mechanics to it? Seems like every 3 or 4 or 5 years, a new mechanic comes out that changes the way games are played. Deck building, before that, worker placement, whatever. Do you see that we're going to keep innovating, or are we just going to keep making the existing mechanics better?
I think we'll see both. I think it's rare that a mechanism like deck building, I think, is the last mechanism I can think of that was adapted widely. On my YouTube channel, I talk about my favorite mechanism in games, and in almost every game I play, there is something innovative, something unique, but it's usually very small and specific to that game. So deck building has stood out and impressed me that it's been so big, it's been so widespread, and that nothing else that I can think of has been that widespread since it's come out. And it's been a while now since deck building. It's been 10 years since Dominion first came out?
Yep. 2008 was Dominion. 2008, right? Yeah. 10 years. Wow. And nothing really since then. I mean, we've had bag building, but it's just kind of a takeoff of deck building, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now we've got Sophia, I can't think of her last name, Wagner. Sophia Wagner's wheel building. I haven't played Noria yet, but it's supposed to be a new mechanic. I don't know if it is or not, but I haven't tried it.
Wheel building. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to try that. All
right. So everybody wants to know, you're right there in your room where you actually have your game nights. But what really is the best game night for Jamey? What does that look like?
Yeah, this was a fun question to think about. You asked good questions, BJ.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I have kind of a precise answer. So it would be at my place. I really like to host game night.
So first off, we know the location. Yeah. It's going to be your place.
It would be here. We would usually at my game night, I like to, and people don't always get here at exactly the right time, although they're pretty good at being punctual because they know that we'll just start playing. And so but I wouldn't mind having a short filler at the beginning. And one of my favorite fillers is For Sale.
Oh, great. I love that game.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite fillers. Then I would probably go into maybe a 90-minute Euro. I listed Castles of Mad King Ludwig because it's my favorite game right now. Sure. But any around roughly 90-minute Euro is really my sweet spot. And then I would end the game night. My game nights are about 2.5 hours, so they're not too long. And that's kind of my sweet spot for a game night. So I would end it with a fun game where we're going to end up laughing. For me, that would be a Telestrations or When I Dream. What do you have one for you? What's a game that is guaranteed to make you smile and laugh?
For us, it's almost always the same one. We love to break out a fake artist goes to New York because we just laugh at each other. I mean, it's almost to where we don't even really care who's winning the game. Yeah. It's making fun of everybody else's ludicrous attempts to hide themselves as the fake artist or terrible attempts to pretend they're not the fake artist. You know, it's just, well, I don't know how, I can't even tell you how many times I played the game. I guess if I looked at BGG stats, I could tell you, but you know, every time I play that game, I just laugh. And that's why I love that game.
Do you play it on the little pad they provided, or do you use a different?
We do. Although, no, now that you say it, I was at, so I come from a game playing family since I was a little tiny tyke. And our Christmas tradition, there's, I don't know, somewhere between 40 to 80 people that come to our Christmas between my mom's family and my dad's family. Okay. I mean, they were together. I don't mean it like that. I meant that between the two families that we have to visit.
Yeah.
And, so about 40 people in one, 80 in the other. And on the smaller one, we just have a tradition. We always play games together. We get together for a couple of days and play games. And I forgot New York artist. I forgot a fake artist goes to New York. And I said, wait a minute. Oink's not gonna be happy with me. I bought the game already. Right. But I just said, does anybody have 16 colored markers? They did. Oh, yeah. I mean, because there's a lot of kids running around. I got out a pad and we played the game just tearing up sheets of paper and handing them out to people. What about you? Do you have a way of playing it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bigger pad of paper, and even as we're talking here, I have a whiteboard. Let me see if I can tell this right there. I have a whiteboard over here.
Yeah, sure.
And I've never thought about trying it on the whiteboard, but I have 8 different markers up there. It could work on the whiteboard. I might try that at game night, see if that works.
Try it at game night. I'm going to check with Alex and see if you do that. Hey, we do have another question from Sean Jones, who I did some demo work at this past Gen Con with. Sean's an awesome guy, and he can do an amazing Rush interpretation. So Sean says, could Jamey speak about his time management skills, consistent blog posting, YouTube, podcast appearances, Facebook, now Instagram, the Stonemaier time machine, and don't forget Twitter, he says. And, I got to call shenanigans. 80 hours a week, every single week.
Yeah.
Come on.
I work a lot, but a lot of people work a lot. I think, I would almost say that I don't have great time management skills. So I would say someone with really good time management skills is someone who is very focused and they balance their work and their personal life really well. And I don't do that very well. I can let myself get distracted. I can let things stretch on longer than they need to be. And I do that kind of for my personal mental health. But a lot of times my work bleeds over into my personal life. But I like that. I think the key for me is that I love what I do. And so there are aspects of it that certainly feel like work. And I feel like I have responsibilities and accountability, but
what's the tip? Give us your tip. What's the best
one
Jamey Stegmaier tip that you could give Sean Jones, who by the way didn't have any problem with time management? I don't know why he's asking this question. But it's a good question, you got to admit.
Oh no, it's a great question about time management. What is one tip that I use? Man, that's tough. Okay. I have to give an answer here. We're live here, right?
We are absolutely live. Millions of people are waiting this answer right now, Jamey. No pressure.
This isn't a great answer. I'll try to think of a better answer. Because this is kind of a cop out. But actually, no, I've got one that does help somewhat. I have a standing desk, and this isn't a time management thing exactly, but I found that it helps me switch between tasks. If I'm standing up for like an hour, and I find myself getting tired of standing up, then that's like a good trigger for me that I've been at the computer for too long and that I've been doing maybe one task for too long. Oh. And that's when I'll switch the desk to the seating mode. It's an up-down desk. It's an expensive time management solution, but it's really nice and it's kind of good for your health to stand up.
Actually, now that I think about it, it kind of makes sense. If you sit down at a desk too long, they always say that your productivity starts to actually go down the longer you just sit there doing the same task. And you're just giving us a physical example of how to remind yourself to wake up a little bit, breathe some air, maybe switch tasks if you're running out of gas.
Yeah, and it goes.
Sean, that should be a pretty good one, man. I think they'll answer. All right, so tell us, Stonemaier Games lineup for 2018. Here's a chance to kind of, I know people are familiar with your website, but maybe some people haven't checked out what's coming up. You did talk about the Scythe expansion, of course. Is there anything else you want to kind of talk about coming up?
Well, yeah, I mean, overall, just a quick hits of the
Sure.
The lineup is in late spring. We'll have a small viticulture expansion. I'm sorry about that. Small viticulture expansion in late spring. Hopefully
Can you talk about that? Can you talk about a little bit about what it's going to be bringing?
It's in the style of more visitors.
Okay.
More visitors was just an expansion that added more visitors. This one is that, but with a twist that I won't reveal yet, but it is very similar to that with a twist.
Okay.
Then at Gen Con, we will have, if everything goes well with production and shipping, we will have 2 releases. One will be the Rise of Fenris, the Scythe expansion, and the other will be something that we haven't announced that is a little more family-oriented than most of our games. Kind of in the weight of Bunny Kingdom, which I mentioned earlier.
That is funny that you say. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. What's the last one?
And then I guess to finish the lineup, and then we can talk about it. Is the Euphoria expansion should come out in the fall, followed by 1 or 2 games. One of which I gave a hint at. Though I gave the word castles to you earlier.
Sure.
Might be an Essen release.
So I hang out on Facebook on a group I found a couple of months ago, run by Chuck Yeager, not the Chuck Yeager, a different Chuck Yeager, but Chuck runs an awesome. I love playing heavy Euros, medium heavy Euros, and I'm starting to get into heavier in what I like. But I still, at heart, I love the 1 hour wonder. You know, the kind of just a 60-minute game. I love filler games. I've got tons of them. I love these. I'm really getting addicted to these little small Japanese small box games. Nolan Nasser sent me Mystery of the Temples, and I've been playing it every day because I love these little games that can give you a big game experience in a tiny little box, like a fake artist. This particular Facebook group is called Gateway and Filler Games, and I noticed in your lineup, we were talking about it on the group today. Between Two Cities is the only one that would really kind of fit, although it's not quite a filler. It's a little bit more than a filler game, filler plus maybe. Do you see yourself publishing that weight of game, just a straight Ticket to Ride style, or for sale, or no thanks, even smaller, like a for sale or no thanks style game?
You know, if you had asked me that maybe 3 years ago, I would say yes. At the time, we were going for a very diverse portfolio of games, and that's why we went after Between Two Cities. That was like the first step into that. Since then, we've recalibrated a little bit to focus a little bit more on what I call an event game, like the centerpiece of a game night, the one that you plan to play in advance almost. The main.
That's
feature.
A good word for it.
Yeah. But not all will be like that. Like the game that I meant, the family game at Gen Con is like a 45-minute to an hour game. So I don't know if it's quite in that event category, but the table presence is certainly that of an event game. But
is it something you design or something you're bringing out from someone else?
This is something from someone else that I've helped to develop, but I'm not the designer. Yeah, in fact, I will have no new games designed by me coming out in 2018. All the games that I'm working on will be 2019 releases.
How has that been as a developer? Do you still get the same thrills?
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. And I've been a co-designer, like on The Rise of Fenris, I've been a co-designer, which I've enjoyed too. But I found unexpectedly, originally through Between Two Cities, that I really do enjoy taking a game and not being, I guess, a designer. You've got to do a lot of work. You have to. It's all on you to get it right. You spend a lot of time prototyping, playtesting. And so it's kind of nice to be the developer where you can just like play it once or twice, give some feedback, and then send it over back to the designers for them to spend another month or so with it, and then they send it back to you and you do that again. I've enjoyed that process. Have you been involved in any playtests? Yeah,
we had a couple of companies send us play testing. I did a little bit of work, not work at all, just volunteering for a couple of different companies. Wordsy was one of the ones that I kind of did a little bit with Gil. So yeah, it's actually fun. I'm more of the I'm more of the theme guy, more of the ideas guy. I would be the guy that would write the copy. The other guys that I have are all the math guys that can see the game. I've got one guy in our game group that can break any game. If it needs to be play tested, send it to Bradley, because Bradley will figure out a way to break it. One of our friends is coming out with a game next year, or actually this year at Essen. Uli signed Captains of the Gulf. It's a themed from shipping. Crabbing, shrimping, all that in the Gulf here, and it's beautiful. But when it was early in the play test, he brought it over for us to play, and he's like, I really think it's just about there, man. And Bradley scored 200 points on it when no one else even had 70 or 80. And wow. And Jason's like, man, back to the drawing board. I still got some work to do. So yeah, we do have fun. It's not a lot of play testing, but when we get a chance, we like doing the play testing. Hey, I got a question to ask you.
Yeah.
So in Britain, you can bet on just about anything.
Yeah.
If I went to Britain to place a bet right now, and the bet was, would Stonemaier Games in the next 5 years publish a game from a user on BGG that Jamey discovered while searching it? Like the Scythe Wind Gambit expansion. Uh-huh. Would that ever happen again? Would that be a good bet? That's 5 years too close? Is 10 years a sure bet?
Well, that's very specific. That's like just from searching randomly. I think the odds might be slim for that. I think it's more likely that someone might point out to me, like someone might know someone or might discover it and might point it out to me.
So there is hope for the BGG designers out there.
Oh yeah.
That in the next 5 or 10 years, Jamey could discover it, right?
There's a slim chance, but I don't want, like, if someone has a game that they think is awesome, that is a good fit for us, I hope they're not waiting for me to happenstance discover it.
I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about going to Britain and placing that bet. I want those odds. The odds are going to be long, but I have a feeling they're going to pay off in the next 10 years. It's a nice, safe bet for my retirement. I'm going to take care of that. All right, Jamey, the last part of our program, unless there's something else you want to talk about any of the 2018 or 2019 releases?
I didn't mention the we might have some more side stuff, not expansions, but we might have a modular board that I'm just waiting on the art for. So we probably will have a modular board just when Jakob completes the art.
Didn't I hear? Yeah, no, it's interesting. I did hear something about another resource chest, maybe. Did I read something about that?
Yeah, in the next couple, I think next week, I have it on my schedule. I'll start hinting at 3 new resource tokens, not entire chests, but 3 new tokens that we're making. Yeah.
Will they fit Concordia? That's all I need to know.
I think we already complete Concordia.
Okay.
Actually, no, one will. Yeah, better than, we have one that currently fits it, but we have one that will fit even better now.
Yeah, because I don't remember you having one that fit the silk part, unless I'm wrong.
Silk. I don't know if we have silk. I think we use we have some generic crate tokens that people use for stuff like that. But you're right. Yeah, we don't have a silk. I'll work on that.
Very good. That'd be great, because I love Concordia. It's one of my favorite games. All right. So the last part of the program that we always do is we play a little game. It's called the Envie Game. It's a Cajun word for really wanting something. Maybe if you're from Texas, you'd say a hankering. I think Bonacore said in New Jersey, you'd call it a jonesing. You're jonesing. Okay. So maybe that makes more sense. But down here in Louisiana, we all know what envie means. So it's a strong desire for something. And in this case, it's a strong desire to play a game. And that game is, and don't tell me what it is, but a game that you designed, or a game that someone else designed, a game you have already played, a game you've always wanted to play, your favorite game, or a game that it just takes too long to play, so you never get to play it on game night. Whatever that game is, it's the one sitting right here. If time and players and the place were not an obstacle, you'd play it right now. We'd shut the broadcast off and you'd say, I'm going to play it right now. Do you have a game in mind?
I mean, I have more than one game in mind. The easy one is my favorite game, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. That's a game that if someone at almost any time someone can suggest that game, and I am up for it.
But don't tell us, because we're going to try to guess.
Oh, I just gave you the answer. Okay, I'll think of a different one then. Okay.
That was the one I was going to guess, because you mentioned castles many, many times. So dang it, that would have been an easy win for me. Shoot.
I have another. I have a backup. You want to guess your backup?
Yeah, let's go with the backup. All right. So first question, is it competitive or cooperative? And I'll have about 20 questions for you. If I can't figure it out at that point, then you win. All right.
Sure.
You win the the Envie prize.
It's competitive.
I would have thought that. American designer or a European designer? And I'm going to guess it's a European designer.
You are right.
Yeah, European. Okay. Let me think. Is it card based or board game based? And I don't have an idea on that one because you could go both ways in that.
I would say neither. There is a board in it, but it's not a main feature, and there are no cards in it.
Not a board in it, but there are no cards in it at all. Okay. Oh, that's a good hint there. Let me see. Luckily, that narrows it down. There's only about 90,000 GG, so this shouldn't be that hard. Would you, if you had to think of, would it be Ameritrash or Euro or the new style hybrid games that are coming out?
It's definitely a Euro game.
Definitely Euro.
Yep.
Is it thematic or abstract? I mean, in other words, look, Ingenious has no theme. I mean, doesn't even pretend to have a theme. Azul does have a theme, at least, even though it's pretty abstract. So, your answer could kind of fit that if you needed to.
I would say, okay, I would say it has a theme, and the theme matters.
Okay. Has it come out recently, like in the last 3 years?
Last 3 years, yeah.
Oh, it has?
Yeah.
All right, so to recap there, got a competitive game. It's European. It has a board with no cards. It's a Euro with a theme, and the theme is important to the game. It's come out the last 3 years. Has it won any awards?
I believe it has. Yeah, I'm gonna look at it without putting it on camera. I have it here.
You could just slide a little bit further so we could see, but no, don't do that.
It's not listed on the box. I'm pretty sure it won some awards, though.
Let me see.
Why don't you BJ, name 3 of your favorite games, and I'll let you know if it has any similarities to those games.
Well, my number one favorite game of all time is Viticulture, so that's
wow.
I would assume that's not it.
No, I did not design this game.
You did not design it. Concordia is another one. My third favorite game. God, I have so many of them. It's always tough to say. It's an old standby, but I played Ticket to Ride more than any other game, and it's not one I would choose to play in the Envie game, but it's definitely a game it's one of the games that got me back into the hobby. So I always include it in my top 3. Okay. I have the big 10th anniversary edition. I love breaking it out with people because I play a lot of games with people that have never played games before. When they see Ticket to Ride, they go, "Oh my God, I didn't even know this hobby existed."
Yeah.
Does it? Let's try to narrow down that theme. I'm going to assume it doesn't have. Does it have a historical theme?
It does. It does.
All right. So, is it named after a city? Because that narrows down a lot of Euro games.
It is named after, not exactly a city, but it is named after a specific place.
Ooh, interesting. Let me think. Is it still in print?
Yeah.
Let me think. Got a couple of I missed a couple of these questions here. Let's see. Steve Finn says, what about time length? Okay, that's a good one. Is it the typical 90-minute Euro?
It's a 45-minute Euro.
A 45-minute. Hey, Steve O'Rourke, the name father who always helps me with this game, had a little trouble logging in, maybe the same trouble you were having. So I'm going to recap for Steve real quick. Hey, Steve, it's competitive. It's a European designer. It has a board but no cards. It is a Euro, has a theme, and it's important to the theme. It came out recently, within the last 3 years, and it is, you said 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, 45, 60 at most, but usually about 45.
And it does have a historical theme. All right, so Dave Duga, that's true. I forgot to say New Bedford, which is probably one of my top 3 games. So, but I don't think it's New Bedford because New Bedford was designed by Nat, who is from New England. No,
Yeah,
no, nothing to do with Europe. So Jeremy wants to know if it's got minis. I'm going to guess no on that one. No
you're
minis.
correct. There are no minis in it.
Steve wants to know if it's got tiles. I'm going to guess yes.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. That where you said cards or boards. This game is mostly a tile game.
Ooh. Oh. El Grande's too old. Let me see. A tile game. They came out in the last 3 years. European designer. Oh boy, these are some great hints we should know. So Sean says, what about Isle of Skye? Is that it? Isle of Skye? Alexander Pfister?
The winner.
What? He's got it already? Sean. Good job. Isle of Skye. So what attracts you to Isle of Skye? I'm curious. I've played a lot of Alexander Pfister's games. Never played Isle of Skye yet.
Oh, yeah, he's one of my favorite designers. He's someone that I pester every now and then because I would love to publish a game by him. I think what I love about it the most, because there are a lot of things, but the same thing I love about castles, where you're kind of setting Castles of Ludwig, where you're setting the prices for things. Isle of Skye has that same mechanism where you're setting the price for your tiles, and other players are buying those tiles.
Is that what attracted you to castles? The bidding part? I've heard some people say it's kind of the weakest part of castles.
In fact, yeah, I originally, that was not what drew me to it. And originally, my first play of castles, we had an AP player, analysis paralysis player, who took way too long with that bidding and almost turned me off from the game completely. But I found since then that was just an anomaly. That was just that person.
Hey, we got a question from the group here. Dave wants quick. It sounds like a quick question. What game or games inspired you to design Scythe? When you first set it up, it looks like you're about to get into a dudes on the map game, right? Mm-hmm. But instead, it's got the feel of a pure Euro. It feels like you start off saying, "Hey, let's get these mechs fighting to the death," and then somewhere in the middle, you said, "No, let's make them carry rice instead." All right, Tuga.
No, that's a great question.
It does not feel like you're carrying rice around the board. But that is a good question.
He actually touches upon something legitimate that happened in the development of the game, because originally I started out inspired by Terra Mystica and Kemet, and the final version is inspired by those games. But originally there was a lot more combat in the game. But the more and more I looked at Jakob's art, I realized that the mechs in the art actually aren't fighting each other. They're there. They're part of everyday life. But they're not. There's very little combat in the art, and I think that's part of what drew me to it. This idea that you might look out in your backyard and there might be a mech there, and that's normal. And so more and more throughout the development of the game, I integrated that. I moved away from combat and moved into this just everyday life engine building game.
And I forgot what they're called. The big cards. I don't know why, because I played the game a million times. The encounter cards.
Encounter cards, yeah.
The encounter cards on some of them, when you actually look at them, if I remember right, the peasants, I guess we'll say, the farmers, they don't even look like they're looking at the mechs at all. Right. It's like, oh, there's that mech again.
Yeah.
So that actually drove some of the decisions into steering it away from your typical dudes on a map conflict game, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like on the wall behind my computer there, it was just covered in Scythe art throughout the design process. And whenever I'd stumble upon something, I'd just look at that art and figure out what I felt by looking at it, and I tried to capture that in the game.
So Dave is actually referencing, I think, a long-time argument we have with one of the crew to Gumbo, who always says it's not really a dudes on a map game. It's really just a Euro, blah, blah, blah. And I always want to tell him, you're forgetting about the one faction where you can win by doing nothing but combat the entire game.
Right. Yeah, I think inside the threat of combat is much more important than combat itself.
Absolutely. Except for that one faction.
Yeah.
Because that faction can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so Sean Jones is the big winner. He guessed Isle of Skye. Should have known that one because you talk about Alexander Pfister all the time. If I'd done my homework, I would have remembered that. I'll be honest with you, I kind of cheated. I knew that Castles was your favorite game, and I said, I always play the Envie Game at the end, and when I throw it on him, he's going to go right to Castles.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have an easy win over anybody else who hasn't done their research. Because, I mean, you do talk about it frequently. It's listed as your number one game. Are you going to update that anytime soon with your favorite games?
Yeah, I update it every 6 months. So I think it will be in March when I update again. I think.
Hint. Is there a threat on Castles, or is Castles still going to be number one?
There probably is a threat, because I have not played Castles in way too long, and at least the last few months. So, yeah.
Bezier sent me. Sean and I are part of the Envoy program, so we do a lot of demoing for them, and I'll be doing Palaces. I have not played it yet, but I gotta admit, I've been breaking out, looking at the rules. I watched Dan King's rules video. It actually looks like it fixes some of the stuff that I love castles. It's probably my top 15 games of all time. But the auction and the fact that you're building separate tiny little castles and you never really build that big thing has been a complaint from other people, not from me. And it looks like Palaces fixes that.
I got to play an early version, or not that early, like a pre-production version with Ted at Gen Con this past year. And it's a great game. A friend just got it. So I'll probably play that in the near future again. I think you'll have fun with it.
All right. Well, all right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. Sean Jones, the big winner, but we're all winners. We got to visit with you, Jamey, and hopefully you had a good time. I want to thank you for coming into the show, man.
Hey, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
So how can they reach you?
I am everywhere at Stonemaier Games. I'm like on Facebook, my website, Stonemaier Games, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Jamey Stegmaier.
Well, make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo. It helps us to get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows. Hey, Jamey, we will be taking a break next week because it's a national holiday. I'm assuming the entire country also closes next week for Mardi Gras, or is it just Louisiana?
St. Louis has the second biggest Mardi Gras in the country, so yeah.
Yeah, so I'm leaving, and the whole state basically shuts down for a week. So there will not be a Gumbo Live next week, but we'll be coming back after that. Hey, I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and Jamey, until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.